The alarm clock buzzed at 5:30 a.m., its shrill ring breaking the silence of the small apartment. Amara reached over quickly to silence it, careful not to wake her younger sister, Maya, who was curled up on the sofa bed, shivering beneath a thin blanket. Amara's heart clenched. Maya's face was pale, her forehead damp with sweat. She had spent half the night coughing, her body weak and tired. When Maya tried to sit up, Amara hurried over and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Don't even think about it," Amara whispered softly. "You're not going to work today. Look at you, you can barely stand." Maya shook her head, guilt flickering in her tired eyes. "But I can't miss my shift, Amara. They'll cut my pay. And if I lose this job, Amara hushed her with a squeeze of her hand. "Stop. I'll go. Just tell me what to do. I'll cover for you." Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. You've never worked as a maid before. It's not like the cafe job you had in college. The hotel has rules, strict ones. "I'll manage," Amara said firmly, forcing a smile. "Besides, what kind of sister would I be if I let you go in this condition? Rest. I'll handle today." And with that, she dressed quickly in the spare uniform Maya kept neatly folded in the corner. It felt strange, slipping into her sister's life for a day. The navy blue dress was slightly loose around her waist, the white apron crisp, the cap awkward on her head. She caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror and exhaled slowly. She looked the part, even if she didn't feel it. By the time she arrived at the Grand Hotel, the city was just waking up. Sunlight bounced off the towering glass walls, and guests in tailored suits and glittering jewelry streamed in and out of the revolving doors. Amara's nerves twisted in her stomach. She wasn't used to this world. The polished floors, the chandeliers, the hushed luxury that seemed to exist on another planet entirely. "Keep your head down," she reminded herself as she entered through the staff entrance. Maya's supervisor, Mrs. Lopez, barely gave her a glance as she handed her a cart loaded with fresh linens, toiletries, and cleaning supplies. "Room 306, 512, 709, and then 1207. Move quickly. Guests are checking out this morning." Amara nodded, biting her lip to hide her nerves. She had no idea how her sister did this every day, carrying the weight of exhaustion in silence. The first few rooms went slowly. She wiped down surfaces, folded towels into neat triangles, and made beds with corners so sharp they could have cut glass. She spilled a bit of soap in one bathroom and had to scrub twice as long to cover her mistake. Sweat dampened her collar as she pushed the cart from room to room, trying to remember everything Maya had told her. By the time she reached room 1207, she was exhausted but determined. She knocked politely, waited a few moments, then swiped the master key card. The door swung open, and Amara froze. This was no ordinary guest room. Suite 1207 was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline. Plush sofas, glass tables, and elegant decor screamed of wealth far beyond anything she had ever known. But the state of the room was another story entirely. Clothes were strewn across the carpet, shoes kicked carelessly under the table, a half-empty mug sat dangerously close to the edge of a counter. A child's toy truck lay abandoned on the sofa, and crumpled papers littered the floor. Amara blinked, momentarily overwhelmed. How does someone live like this in a place so perfect? She thought. She stepped inside, pushing the cart gently, when a small voice startled her. "Hi, who are you?" Amara turned sharply. Standing in the middle of the living room was a little boy, maybe 6 years old, with messy brown hair and big, curious eyes. His socks didn't match, and his shirt was buttoned wrong, but his smile was full of life. "I'm, here to clean your room," Amara answered softly, unsure how much she was allowed to say. The boy's eyes lit up. "Oh, can you help me build my airplane? Daddy never has time." Before Amara could respond, a deeper voice called from another room. "Ethan." What did I tell you about bothering people? Come here right now. The boy, Ethan, pouted but didn't move. Instead, he pointed at Amara. But Daddy, she can help me. The man who appeared in the doorway made Amara's breath catch. Tall, broad-shouldered, his presence seemed to command the room instantly. His dark suit clung perfectly to his frame, though the loosened tie and undone top button suggested a man constantly rushing, constantly carrying the weight of the world. His sharp jawline and piercing eyes were the kind one didn't forget easily. But beneath his polished exterior, Amara saw it, the exhaustion. A heaviness in his eyes, like he hadn't truly rested in years. Their gazes locked. For a second, Amara forgot she was in a maid's uniform, forgot she was supposed to keep her head down. The man frowned slightly, then his expression softened. You're new. Amara swallowed hard. I'm just filling in today. He gave a short nod, then turned to his son. Ethan, leave her alone. She's working. But Daddy, Ethan whined, tugging at Amara's apron. She said she can help me. Please. Amara shook her head quickly. I really shouldn't. But then she looked at the boy's face, so full of hope, so desperate for attention, and her heart twisted. She crouched down to his level, smiling gently. What kind of airplane is it? His eyes widened with delight. Come, I'll show you. He grabbed her hand eagerly, dragging her to the coffee table where a half-built toy plane sat in pieces. Amara glanced at his father nervously, expecting him to object. But instead, he just stood there, silent, watching. And as she sat on the floor with Ethan, carefully helping him fit the wings in place, she felt the man's gaze on her. Not in the way she'd experienced before, the dismissive glance wealthy men often gave to those in uniforms, but something else, something unreadable. When Ethan cheered as the toy finally clicked together, Amara couldn't help but laugh with him. The sound seemed to fill the room, brighter than the morning sun streaming through the windows. The father's expression shifted, just slightly. A flicker of gratitude, a hint of longing, and in that fragile moment, Amara realized this wasn't just another hotel guest. This was a man carrying a story far heavier than his tailored suit could hide. She had come here to cover her sister's shift. But perhaps fate had other plans. Amara had only meant to stay a few minutes longer, just enough to make sure Ethan's toy plane was fixed. She told herself she would finish cleaning, leave quietly, and no one would remember she'd ever been there. But the minutes turned into an hour, and the hour stretched into 2. Something about the little boy made it impossible to walk away. Ethan was so full of life yet so achingly lonely, his small voice echoing with the kind of emptiness only a child without a mother could carry. He wanted to talk, to play, to share every little detail about his favorite cartoons, his drawings, and his super-secret mission, to become a pilot one day. And through it all, Alexander, the man she now knew was his father, watched quietly from the sidelines. He should have been working. His phone buzzed repeatedly on the table, emails piling up, meetings waiting for his attention. But he ignored them. His usually restless energy, the constant need to control and manage, seemed to fade as he stood there, observing this strange young woman in a maid's uniform breathe laughter into his son's world. Finally, when Ethan grew tired from running around, he curled up on the sofa with his toy airplane in hand. Within minutes, he was asleep, his breathing soft and steady. The silence that followed was heavy but not uncomfortable. Amara stood, brushing invisible dust from her apron, suddenly very aware of the man's eyes still fixed on her. I should get back to work, she murmured, her voice low. But Alexander stepped forward, his voice stopping her. Wait. Amara froze, her hand hovering over the cleaning cart. You're not a maid, are you? His tone wasn't accusing, more curious, thoughtful. Her heart skipped. Why would you say that? He studied her for a long moment, his sharp gaze both unsettling and captivating. The way you speak. The way you carry yourself. You're too careful with your words. Too gentle with him. He gestured toward Ethan, asleep on the couch. Most staff come in, do their job, and leave. But you, his voice softened. You listened. You cared. Amara lowered her gaze, guilt creeping in. I'm just covering for my sister. She's sick. I didn't want her to lose the day's pay. Alexander nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes. He walked to the window, staring out at the sprawling city below. For a moment, he said nothing, his reflection blending with the skyline. Then, his voice came, low, almost broken. My wife died 3 years ago. A car accident. One moment she was there, laughing, teasing me about working too much. The next, she was gone. Amara's breath caught, her chest tightening. She glanced at Ethan, suddenly seeing more than just a lonely child, seeing a boy growing up with a hole in his heart too big for toys or tutors to fill. Alexander's hand curled into a fist at his side. I thought I could handle it. That if I buried myself in work, I'd survive it. I wanted to give Ethan the best of everything. The best schools, the best home, the best future. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that what he needed most wasn't money. He swallowed hard, his voice raw. He needed me. The vulnerability in his confession shook Amara. She had expected arrogance, the kind of cold distance she'd seen in wealthy men before. But standing there was not just a CEO in a tailored suit, it was a man stripped bare by grief, guilt, and love he didn't know how to express. You're doing your best, Amara said gently, surprising herself with the steadiness in her tone. It may not feel like it, but you're still here. That matters more than you think. Alexander turned then, his eyes locking on hers. And for the first time since she'd entered the suite, she saw something break through the walls he carried, a flicker of hope. I watched you today, he said softly. The way you sat on the floor with him, the way you made him laugh. I haven't heard him laugh like that in months. His voice dropped, almost pleading. Stay. Just for today. Help me. Help him. Amara hesitated, torn. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to get involved. But when she looked at Ethan, his little hand curled around his toy plane even in sleep, her heart knew the answer. She nodded. Just for today. The rest of the afternoon unfolded in a way Amara could never have imagined. She helped Ethan with his coloring books, praised his messy but heartfelt drawings, and listened patiently to his endless stories. She coaxed him into eating lunch, something his father confessed had become a battle most days. And Alexander, slowly, carefully, joined in. At first, he stood back, his hands in his pockets, unsure of how to bridge the distance between himself and his son. But Amara guided him without even realizing it. When Ethan wanted to show his dad a picture he drew, Amara encouraged Alexander to sit beside him. When Ethan laughed at a silly face, Amara nudged Alexander to try one too. Piece by piece, the gap between father and son began to close. By evening, golden sunlight spilled across the suite, painting everything in a warm glow. Ethan, now full of energy again, insisted they all build a paper airplane together. Amara folded one wing, Ethan folded the other, and Alexander taped the nose. When they tossed it across the room, it soared farther than any of Ethan's planes ever had. The boy clapped his hands with joy, running to fetch it again. Do it again. Do it again. Amara laughed, the sound bubbling out naturally, while Alexander's eyes softened as he watched. Not just watched his son, but watched her. There was something unspoken in his gaze. Something that scared her because it felt like the beginning of something she hadn't been searching for. As the sky outside turned dusky, Ethan finally grew sleepy again. He climbed into bed with his toy plane tucked beside him and whispered drowsily, "Will you come back tomorrow?" Amara brushed his hair gently from his forehead, smiling tenderly. "If your dad says it's okay." Alexander stood in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the soft glow of the bedside lamp. His eyes lingered on her, steady and unyielding. "Please," he said simply, his voice stripped of all authority, all the commanding weight of a CEO. It was just one word, but it carried everything: a father's plea, a man's gratitude, and something more fragile, more dangerous, blooming in the space between them. Amara's breath hitched. She hadn't meant for this. She hadn't meant to step into their lives, to fill spaces that weren't hers to claim. Yet somehow, in a single day, she had become part of something bigger than herself. She looked back at Ethan, then at Alexander. And in that quiet, suspended moment, she realized, she hadn't just covered her sister's shift. She had stumbled into a place where her kindness mattered, where her presence changed something. Perhaps fate didn't knock at the door, it simply opened it when you least expected. And Amara, though uncertain of tomorrow, felt a truth stirring deep inside: this was only the beginning.